Hello, everybody.
Welcome to Flutzin Around with Challen and Maria.
And today, with a special celebrity skating guest,
Yay!
Lance Travis. In case you do not know who...
Hi, everybody.
Yay!
Yeah. Oh my gosh. In case for some reason this name does not automatically come to your mind, let us give you a refresher of who this awesome person is. Lance Travis was the 93 national champion in pairs with his partner, Stephanie Stiegler. He was also a Grand Prix medalist in a 94. He got a silver and a bronze medal on the circuit, as well as being the 1995 senior pairs bronze medalist.
Yay!
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 Welcome to the show. All right, so do you have anything you want to tell us about yourself?
Along with that, I guess I've been a coach in my hometown of Greensboro, North Carolina, for going on 23 years. I've had kids go to nationals and junior nationals, and love working with kids of all ages. And I have adults as well, and adults that compete at adult nationals, and I've even got a girl who's going to the adult world competition coming up this year in Oberstdorf.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations to all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I guess in addition, because that's something that's happened recently, I've also recently wrote my first foray into children's book writing, a book about a little girl's first figure skating competition called Audrey's Awesomesauce First Competition.
Hell yeah. Oh my gosh. We are so excited to be able to talk to you about skating in general and your book.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know about this book yet, it is awesome. It's available on Amazon as well as a few other retailers. I know that you had a goal of trying to make it accessible in like skate shops.
Yes, and there is the ability to do that now. You just have to contact myself, and I can connect pro shop owners, because it has to be through the pro shop, so it has to be whoever is the licensed pro shop manager. You can purchase the book for wholesale so that it can be purchased retail at your pro shop in your ice skating rink.
Awesome.
That's so awesome. For any of you pro shop owners listening, get on this.
Yeah.
All right, now talk about this book. What inspired you to write it, first of all?
I've had kind of the idea to write a children's book because I have my fine arts degree, and I also have a graphic design degree, and I kind of wanted to do something that was written and illustrated by a skater for skaters, and specifically in regard to your first ice skating competition. I feel like it's kind of a nice thing to be able to prepare kids for what to expect, because in teaching, I've had a lot of kids that you get them out of learn to skate, and you'd like them to do like a basic skills competition, but a lot of them are nervous, don't understand what it really means or what to expect. And this book was really written for very young kids from like ages 3 to 8, just to kind of give them a little bit of a glimpse of what their first skating competition might entail, little lessons on how to be prepared for what you need. There's a little search and find section where you have to search the room, Audrey's room, to find her, all of her skating necessities, her guards, her skates, her dresses. And so it's like a little room search that's kind of fun for the reader. And then there's also little helpful hints about nutrition, about stress management, how to manage your stress, things to do, and life lessons about sportsmanship and being a good friend and a good competitor out on the ice, and the idea about friendships that last your whole life beyond the medals and beyond the accolades for skating. The relationships you build with people last a lifetime.
I love that so much. Would you say that is the dominant takeaway message that you want to get across?
Yes, I do, and I think in this world now with the I, Tonya movie coming out, and everybody kind of referencing back to that, and there's passionate feelings about that one way or the other. But I think ultimately, it's nice to have a book that helps kids, young budding competitive skaters, parents, coaches, have these dialogues about sportsmanship and about right from wrong, and just kind of hitting home early the things that really skating gives you. Competitive skating should help give you these lessons about responsibility, good sportsmanship. I think it's a nice thing to have as a vehicle for coaches and parents to start these talks with their kids early.
That's really
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah.
Now, were any of the skaters in your book based on any skaters or students that you know, or are they just supposed to be universally relatable characters?
Well, they are, and I think they are, and I think, Audrey is, if you see her on the back cover, there is a student of mine named Audrey, and it's kind of, she's a character, and she's very, she's a special little kid, and she's very funny, and so I kind of loosely based on Audrey the character on the real Audrey. But really, Audrey is an amalgamation, like a compilation of all of my students that I've had through the years, in different parts of the book for different reasons. In the book, I reference friends of Audrey, and if you see this in the kind of early section of the book, the first couple of pages, that's just kind of an ode to all the students, some of them current, some of them past, that I've had, just to kind of reference them and kind of a special kind of reminder of, how special they are to me. So I wanted people to not feel left out. And it gives a little line at the top. Audrey's new friend is, and you put your own name there.
Nice.
So you can put your own name in the book.
I love that.
Even at the end of the book, there is the first competition information. So the skater, they can either pretend that they're going to go to a competition. If they're not a skater, they can write in their information. Or you can actually, if you're competing, it's a great gift to give for the young skater who's going to compete, and they can record their information from that competition and put a little picture in there and become part of the book.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. You put so much love and care into making the book beautifully illustrated, very interactive, and you did illustrate the book yourself, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, definitely. And you did such a good job. It looks really cool when you can see the ice and everything. It's really awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's I wanted to do it in a very kind of childlike cartoon style because of the nature of the book. I wouldn't say I don't know that it's in any specific style, because I can do, I think, many styles when I'm illustrating, and that's kind of a good thing anyway. I think the next book that I do, I want it to be kind of strictly computer generated.
Oh, that's cool.
It'll be a little different, but yeah, I think it's important that you are, if you're able to do different styles, I think it's kind of, it's a good thing, because the diversity, I think, of the books makes them more interesting.
Oh, definitely.
And whether it be story or illustration. So, yeah, the next book that I do, I think it's going to be strictly computer-generated images. But actually, the book that I'm doing now, which will be actually before the next storybook that I do, is a workbook / coloring book, activity book for skaters.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because I feel like that needs to be as well, because I was telling Challen before that, as instructors, especially when we're teaching Learn to Skate, we use, pictures out of regular coloring books that we can find that might have anything skating related, and sometimes let the kids color, or, to give them pages to take home to color. And at least this way, this is a way for, they're again written and illustrated by a skater for skaters. I feel like that's important because I kind of know what the need is, and these activities will be coloring pages that will be anything from like very basic, images for young kids to adult coloring pages, and then there are activities in there as well, like where you can design your own skating costume, word searches, all kinds of things.
Oh my gosh,
that's awesome.
Oh
yeah, I mean, I think there again, I feel like there's a need, and I think when you see that there is something missing, it's nice to have something for skaters and coaches to be able to purchase and use and photocopy. You can photocopy the pages and have them for all of your students. And
heck yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's going to make learning so much more fun. And something I love about your illustrations, even in Audrey's Awesomesauce's style, you can tell that whoever drew them had really good anatomical understanding of what the different moves are supposed to look like. I don't know how to describe it, but you can tell that either a dancer or a skater did the illustrative work.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I can't wait to see what this new book looks like.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to be some of the first people to order it.
What did you say?
I'm sorry?
I said, what did you say?
Oh, we are going to be some of the first people to order your new book when it comes out. We are so excited.
Well, good. Maybe I will send you like an advanced copy.
Oh my gosh, we would be so flippin' honored. I had to do that.
That would be amazing. Oh my gosh.
Which reminds me, for those of you listening to this right now, we are working on a little arrangement with Lance to get 5 autographed copies of Audrey's Awesomesauce First Competition books out to you.
Yes!
So we'll have like a little raffle or some kind of like a little competition, and we will make this happen because we want to do whatever we can to promote this book for you. It's awesome. I'm so glad you're fulfilling this
I will
need.
definitely do that, and I even told Audrey and her sister that they could come and help me sign books as well.
Oh my gosh, we would love that.
Actual Audrey will sign the book too.
Oh my
awesome.
gosh! Oh my god,
Yay.
that is incredible.
Yes, she was very excited to hear this.
Oh my god,
That's awesome.
He's all ready to do the book signings, and I have actual book signings happening on February. Let's see, what do we got scheduled? In Greensboro, I'm at Barnes & Noble doing book signings on Saturday, February 17th, and then in High Point, North Carolina, Saturday, February 24th.
Wow.
Just to kind of bookend the Olympics, like the skating portions. The one is like as it's starting, and then the other one is like when things are wrapping up.
ooh!
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much to look forward to.
And there again, I think some of the skaters are going to come. I think Audrey's going to come to both of those too, and she's very excited about that as well.
Oh my gosh, you're going to make her a star.
Yeah, she thinks she is already. So,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, actually, it's kind of like a little like sneak insider info. Marie and I are going to be doing kind of like a skating tour over the summer, and on the way either going or coming from California, we would love to stop in at your rink in Greensboro and just say hi and maybe get our own copy officially signed.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I would love that. You guys definitely come by and you can hang out in our rink and we'll have a good time.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
so nice.
I'm like crying right now.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Something I really want our listeners to know about you is what a fabulous person you are, and how you extend some of that to not just on the ice for skaters, but in your community in general. Would you like to share the type of shows that you put on with our listeners?
Yeah, well, we do a thing that it's a collaboration, really, of our local Fox 8 channel, Old Dominion, They're the ones who do the transportation of the foods that are collected, and they're really kind of the big sponsorship behind it. And we collaborate and all work together with the Greensboro Symphony Orchestra as well. And it's held in our Coliseum, and the collection of canned goods and non-perishable food goods is incredible that these shows collect. You know, it's the only admission to the performances are a canned good or, you know, non-perishable food item, and we had like 7 numbers that we choreographed with our local skaters, and you know, of course, assisted and we skate to the beautiful music of the Greensboro Symphony Orchestra, and it's just a really nice, family-oriented holiday, you know, show and kind of tradition in Greensboro. But really, it really does a lot of good for the community, and we're, you know, very happy and honored that we get to be a part of it each year. And it's really an exciting opportunity for these kids because, you know, a lot of them, you don't ever hardly get to skate unless you make it to nationals, and sometimes our performance has more people in it than it does at nationals because we've got people all the way up to the rafters inside the Coliseum, and you're performing in front of like 20,000 people. It's just a really exciting thing, and accompanied with the, you know, with the symphony orchestra, it's a special event.
I love that because I feel like, and please anyone just pop in and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like when you're a kid and you're aspiring to make certain elite competitive levels of skating, yes, you want the titles, yes, you want the medals, but really what's getting you into it is hopefully your love of skating and the feeling of being able to perform in front of an appreciative audience, being able to have that feeling of being in the spotlight, of this being your moment, and really kind of being able to just get into your own zone and transform yourself.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It sounds like your show has that effect on all these skaters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they love it. I mean, we get a lot of participation. I don't know how many. I mean, I would say it's sometimes difficult, although this year we had 7 numbers that we had to choreograph, and it became a little easier because we could compartmentalize the levels of skaters. So we had kind of like mid-level, high-level, lower-level numbers. When you're able to do that, it's much easier. There have been times in the past where we only had, say, like 3 numbers, and then you've had like maybe a 12-minute number that was to the medley of Polar Express. Okay. And then you have like levels of like, you know, adult skaters to, you know, basic skills out on the ice, and it's like, it's, you know, it becomes much more difficult to do a 12-minute number with that many variation of levels. Yeah. Because when you're trying to do it, you know, younger kids have a shorter attention span. So, you know, it's much better when you're able to separate them out and have them work as an ensemble in their own level, because you don't lose their attention so much. So this year it was really nice, and things ran really smoothly because we were able to keep them kind of in likewise, you know, level with each number.
That's really smart. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and but yeah, they love it. They you know, I think the kids look forward to it every year. It's exciting. You know, being in the Coliseum is exciting. When you're performing out there, you feel like, you know, you've made the big time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's great that you give them an opportunity to experience that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, and it's really the bigger part of it is you feel like you're doing something great within the community, and it's Christmas time, and it brings people together, and it's just a very special feeling to, you know, band together to do something good with skating.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, something that someone I knew told me, and to this day, like, this annoys me, and I'm a little annoyed with myself for even giving it the attention of being online somewhere. But someone told me that skating was a very selfish and narcissistic thing to do, and it couldn't have any positive impact anywhere. And I love hearing examples that show that skating can do so much for the individual, but it can also have a tremendous impact outside of the sport itself.
Well, right. And I think, that can be true because our sport is, let's face it, it is, a very me-oriented sport in some ways. But I feel like, if you can start teaching your kids early on, to be good competitors, to be good sports, to be, a good training mate on the ice, and to really care about their fellow training mates, you can cultivate that more sense of, friendship and being there, and maybe not being quite so, narcissistic about what it is that you're doing. I think, it's up to the coaches and it's up to the parents, I think, to keep those kinds of things in check. But they can go off the rails. I mean, we've seen plenty of people that maybe get full of themselves, and Miss Harding might be one of the prime examples. But but there again, she didn't have the best upbringing. She didn't have the best family unit. She didn't have the best, scenario for her development. So hers is really a cautionary tale for sure. But, I don't know that I want to get into all of that, but, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We got you.
We understand.
We got you. And that's what we love about this book so much, is there's just so much in it, and it doesn't look like it off the bat. Like, a little kid is not going to pick all these things up the first few times they read it through or someone reads it to them. But it's almost kind of like an heirloom book that can still serve you as you get older, into your tweens or teens even.
Right. Well, and that's kind of what I meant. I mean, because the messages, and I have a lot of kids. I mean, of course, a lot of them are mine, but, and they want to get the book because they know their name is in it, but they've also said the same thing. They really like the book, and they like that it's written, it's not all rhyme, but it has some rhyming in it, which I think is kind of nice, and I think kids like that when they're reading anyway, when they're very young. But I think the messages, are certainly things that you need to take with you throughout life in general. And I think skating does that. I mean, honestly, anybody who thinks that skating, is all narcissistic and it doesn't really have any redeeming qualities, that's not true, because you're taught time management, you're taught responsibility, you're taught, good sportsmanship, hopefully. You're taught lessons about just the responsibility factor alone is great, but also understanding that sometimes you're not always going to be the winner, and that's okay too. And I think in life, this is an important lesson to learn, because, hard work does pay off, but sometimes it's not always going to work out, in your favor. But, I'll tell a lot of my other kids that, some of them do well at competition and some of them may have a hard competition sometimes. And I tell them, if you keep working and you keep doing what you're told to do and you really put the effort and the time in, you will see the result. You will see yourself be on top. And not everybody's going to be on top all the time, but you have to be able to stand back and congratulate those people who are your friends that maybe it's their time to win. Yeah. And really the friendships are the most important thing anyway, because, regardless of what color your medal was or if you got one or not, you're hopefully always going to have those friendships. And we're lucky. I think we have a lot of good-natured kids in our rink. There isn't a lot of, bad attitudes or anything like that. And I think as coaches, we're all proud of that, because, the kids really do care and love one another, which is, great. That's what you need in your skating community.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's so nice to hear about a community like that. When you sometimes hear all these other cautionary tales that don't reflect that, it's nice to know that not only can it exist, it does exist, and it doesn't have to be uncommon, and it's easy to foster.
No. Right. Well, I think it's up to the hopefully the coaches, skating directors, people like that, to help cultivate that, And I think, I think as an adult, you really should be doing that anyway in general. I hate to hear people who don't, as adults, because I think that's really, unfortunate.
Yeah.
Hopefully by the time that you've reached adulthood, you realize you need to be cultivating good people, because you're not always going to be a skater or a competitor, but this kid is always going to be a person, and a person who needs to go out into the world and do good things and be kind and hopefully inspire other people. So as coaches, we're in charge of more than just their skating.
Yeah, that's really good to hear that you're such a good role model for children, because children need that, I feel like, especially if they're learning something that's difficult. Having good support is so important.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they need to trust you, and you need to be realizing that, they do watch every little thing. Young kids watch you, and they look up to you, and I have to tell this to the older skaters in our rink all the time, because they have to realize if they're having a bad day, you can't be kicking the ice. You can't be, swearing. Hopefully you're not swearing. We don't do that in our rink, but you can't be kicking the ice and acting, like you're having a temper tantrum, because these young up-and-coming kids are looking up to you, and they think, we don't want them cultivating that kind of attitude within the rink.
Yeah.
That's so awesome that there's that level of responsibility and accountability.
Yeah.
What would you say? Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go on.
No, you didn't cut me off.
Okay. I was going to say, would you say that the adult skaters at your rink, not just the teenage skaters, but the adult competitors, really try to embody this and set an example for the more mainstream competitive skaters?
Oh yes, they do.
Awesome.
And we have the adults that we have in the rink are great, and they really are kind of a couple of the older ladies that I teach are very motherly to a lot of the younger skaters, and but they love it. I have one lady who she's just kind of a great friend of mine, as well as my being her coach, and she's just very inspirational to me, because this woman is in there every morning at 5 o'clock, and she skates at least 2 hours before she goes to work, and she just really loves it, and to me, that kind of dedication is really inspiring, I think, for all of the skaters, as well as coaches. I'm inspired by it, because I'm thinking there's a lot of times I don't want to get myself in the rink, and I'm just standing there teaching. There's just mornings where you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just so tired or whatever, and I just think about this woman. She's in there all the time, and she just loves it. She's dedicated.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. There are so many inspirational people that I meet skating. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's just it. Any sport is going to have maybe the things that you don't want, attached to it, or that you don't, you would hope to not have attached to it. But, there's a lot of great things about skating, and there's a lot of great people in skating, and I think, you just got to focus on that and realize. But every sport, if there are human being is involved in it, any sport is going to have its good and bad. And hopefully we're just trying to cultivate the good.
That's good.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Now, I hope this isn't putting you on the spot too much. Before we get into maybe some other fun things, do you have any anything that you'd either want to say to either some of our listeners who are just contemplating getting into skating, especially skaters who are maybe or future skaters who are looking at this in their early 20s or older?
Yeah, well, all I would say is, you can go to things like Learn to Skate USA if you're interested. If you're in an area where maybe you don't know where where you should start skating, or where they have a Learn to Skate program. But I think our Learn to Skate program has a huge adult following. We have people in our Learn to Skate classes. Our adult classes, they're just really large, and I think it's great to see even adults coming out to take these, beginning lessons and in such numbers. But I think if you're interested, definitely, whether you be interested in doing Learn to Skate group classes or you're interested in doing private lessons, look up your local rinks or go to Learn to Skate USA. And if you're looking for private lessons, always do your research. Look and see if they have bios for the private instruction and the coaches that are in your rink, and see who's a good fit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's good to hear that, like, you have so many adult skaters in the Learn to Skates, because that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times people are kind of shocked when they go to our rink and they see how large the adult classes are. But we do. We have a good amount of adult skaters, and I have about 5 adult skaters that are really competitive. That go to either adult nationals or sectionals each year, and I mean, I think it's good to see that too, so that there's not a disparity in that, because adult skating has really become, I would say, in the last 10 years, a whole lot more popular than it was.
Oh gosh.
Even back when I was competing, it wasn't quite at the level that it's at now. I mean, adult nationals is very competitive. Like, it's great to see some of the skating that you see if you go to an adult nationals, the level of skating that some of the people are. And we even have things like Masters games, which we did here. We did the first Masters games in Greensboro.
Oh my gosh.
2 years ago, I guess it was, and that's a great competition as well. And you get people from all over the world. Like, we had people from Germany and from England, and
wow,
that was a really neat experience for all of our adult skaters. Participated in it as well.
Oh my
wow,
gosh.
that's amazing.
And what an honor to be the first location.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I remember
it was
back
really
when we didn't even have adult wards yet. It was just a concept that we were hoping would get enough momentum at some point. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your rink, where do you guys skate out of? Like, what is the name of your rink?
So we kind of have 2 that we go back and forth between. We're in upstate New York, and we bounce between 2 college campus rinks a lot. But there's not really a whole lot of an adult community. And as far as like competitive skating, you really have to go more into the cities surrounding us before you start running into a lot of consistent sectional and national level competitors. But gosh, we are trying to change that a bit. For us, we mentioned this on another podcast episode, there is an anime series called Yuri on Ice, and I don't know if you've ever watched it. It's really funny. It's kids could watch it, but it's intended for adults to be able to enjoy primarily. And that has actually sparked, for us in our area, a lot of like college students, 20-somethings, to really get into skating if they never got to do it as a child but always wanted. And now they've fallen in love with these characters that are based very loosely on real-life competitive skaters of today. And a couple traits from skaters, I'd say maybe like 5 years ago. And that's brought a little bit more adult traffic into the rinks here. But yeah, but I love working with adult students. They're my favorite type of students, personally, if I had to pick.
Yeah, well, it's just different, which I appreciate and enjoy, because obviously you can talk to them on an adult level, and most of the adults that I work with are just very appreciative and very, I don't know, just very inspired, I guess, by actually skating. Like they're very excited about anything that they learn that's new, or you know, new stroking patterns or new anything. Like they're just very, you know, sometimes they're more hyped and excited about things than a lot of the younger kids. And that's wonderful. Like it's just fun, and the camaraderie and stuff. Like I told you, like one of my adult ladies, she's just really special to me because she's just a good friend, and so I really enjoy our time, you know, that we have in the mornings and lessons. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just different, but it's so great to see people who are older who venture, because, you know, it's pretty adventurous, I think, when you've not done this as a child and then you're trying to learn as an adult. You have to have, you know, a pretty strong will and a pretty, you know, lack of fear.
Oh my God, I wish you could see Maria's face right now. Not always,
you know, there's not always a lack of fear there, but I mean, for the most part, just getting out there in itself, if they're willing to get out there every time and they really enjoy it, you know, they've obviously gotten past the fear. So, yeah, I really enjoy working with adult skaters.
That's really awesome.
You're our pride and joy, Maria.
Like, I'm an adult skater, so that's really awesome to hear.
It's fun, and like it's interesting to me because it's all of the levels. When I go to like adult nationals or whatever competition it might be, people are really in it, and I mean they really put. It's really nice to see like people really putting a lot of thought into their costuming, their program theme, their music. Like it's gotten really, you know. There's a lot of people who are being very innovative, I think, even in like the bronze and silver and gold levels, with what they do, and they're very into it. I mean, I don't know if you've gone to adult nationals lately, but there's another lady that was really interesting to watch this year at adult nationals when skaters went. She's like a throwback. She looks like Peggy Fleming. She has her whole outfit like Peggy Fleming's Grenoble outfit.
Wow.
And she skates identical to Peggy Fleming. It is the weirdest, craziest thing you've ever seen. It's beautiful. Oh my God, she's beautiful. But she's like living that whole image like to the hilt. It's like,
oh my God,
you can't even believe it. And she even has little, because the adults are very excited to like throw stuff at the end of, you know, performances. Like that's all. It's all about all the things you can throw onto the ice.
Oh my God.
And she even has little Kleenex packets made up with her picture, and it says it's "Knock 'em Dead" from Peggy or something.
Oh my God.
Her name is not Peggy, but she looks like Peggy on the thing, so it's really cute. Like
that's adorable.
that just made like the whole month for me.
Yeah, that's, oh my gosh. That's inspirational.
Like for me alone, it was worth it to go watch that. I was like, wow, that was really cool. I'm glad I was here to see that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I think we know what our first, well maybe not first, but one of our big skating, I can't call it field trip. What the heck is this thing called?
We could call it skating field trip. I don't know.
we're going to go to adult nationals. Flutzin around is, and we're going to like see if we can get permission to like live, like, not so much commentate because we're not really going to be there to critique anybody, but we're going
to watch it and enjoy it.
We're going to let you know what's happening if you can't be there yourself.
Yeah, we'll try.
Because it's hard to find adult competition videos on YouTube, and I don't know if they're on Ice Network or not. I probably should know that, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they do it on Ice Network, but you certainly could be there and it would be interesting for you guys to do episodes from there, like just talking with the competitors in general.
Oh,
I think it would be very interesting to like, you know, interview people and have them talk about their experiences there.
Oh my gosh,
that'd be great material.
That is a huge goal, and if any of your students, adult or not, would like to do interviews with us as well, just to kind of recap their skating / competition experiences or whatnot. We love to do that too until we can finally get on the road and visit some of these competitions ourselves.
Yeah. And
I think that's great.
Yeah. One of our friends wants to compete in adult competitions. So maybe that could help us get in there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I mean, I would think, God, yeah, going to those would be, I think, just great material for you guys in general. And I know there'd be plenty of people that would be, more than happy to, just like talking to this lady that I'm telling you about, that like does the whole Peggy Fleming,
Yeah.
pretty much impersonation, basically. But she's got to be fascinating. Like, I would have liked to be able to just sit down and hear what that's all about, even.
We're going to find her in
Yeah,
the
right.
least stalkery sounding way possible. We're going to find who this skater is.
Like, one of my friends knows her, I guess, pretty well, and I will talk to her and get her information,
Oh
because
my
I
gosh.
can't remember what her real name is off the top of my head, because everybody just calls her Peggy.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I will find out what her real name is, and that she probably would be able to get you in contact with her. But I think she would probably be very interesting to talk to.
Send us all as the skaters.
That's so funny. I love that she just impersonates, like, this person has to be inspirational to her. Like, oh my goodness.
Oh God,
This
yeah,
is no
and you
accident.
thought-
Right? Yeah, this is no accident.
It's like you're watching Peggy Fleming. Like,
Oh my
no
God.
lie. Like,
That's
great,
amazing.
beautiful. She does like old school, like really deep edges, really
Wow.
balletic, simple choreography, but like to the nines. Like
Oh my
it's
gosh.
just like breathtaking to watch. Really, like it's like watching a throwback
Oh my gosh.
program.
Can I just say, for the viewers out there, I know that nowadays when we look at mainstream competitors and the program components and whatnot, you see a lot of complicated footwork. You see a lot more changes of edges and turns and things like that. But to do a program like you would have seen from the 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, when it was very classic, clean forward and backward edges. When if there was a turn, it was so symmetrical, so well timed, and we have figures to thank for these things. It is so incredibly hard to skate like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
I don't
for
know
sure.
if there is anyone today who could super copy it. Even the ice dancers, and I'm an ice dancer, and I'm a little bit of an edge snob, I'll admit it. But to copy that style of skating so properly is so immensely difficult.
One, I would say probably the only thing close to that is maybe Papadakis and Cicerone. I mean, because God, they are.
That's the
Phenomenal to
only
watch.
team I could think about, and I still think that they would need to really practice to look
yeah.
like they had the figures training. Just
Yeah.
to give some kind of context, because that kind of was your physical therapy on the ice. You couldn't do figures if you didn't have immaculate alignment and micro control. And I saw a little glimpse of, I think it was Figures Worlds from a couple years ago. They were doing it on a black sheet of ice, which wasn't super black, it was more gray, but whatever, black ice. And the margin of error in those figures, no offense to anyone who competed there who might be listening to this, I want to compete with you at some point, but the margin of error nowadays compared to back then, when all the coaches knew how to teach figures and it wasn't this difficult thing to find a patch instructor, it's so different.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the gap could
Yeah, for
close,
sure.
but
I understand what you're saying, because
yeah.
even now I watched, although there are some amazing people, like Shepard Clark is pretty amazing at figures, and he's a friend of mine, and to watch what he did is pretty amazing. But I would say, back a long time ago, it was really crazy how intricate and how well traced and how immaculate figures were. And I'm talking even really olden days.
Oh yeah, when margin of error was
I would say in our in more of a current day situation, probably one of the most immaculate figure skating skaters that I ever saw was Debbie Thomas. Because I can remember being at Nationals and watching her skate figures and being like, oh my God, she was like a machine. There was no gap between the tracings. There was no, it was it was like you drew it in a book.
Yeah.
And she was just an amazing skater where figures were concerned. But I think, on average, with what's going on now, and the world figure skating, the actual figure skating is becoming popular again. There's a lot more a buzz around it, and it's actually becoming more of its own entity. So it looks like each year that also is gaining momentum, which is good. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, talking about my goals, at some point in ice dance, I would like to go into adult competition, and I'd love to be able to compete at adult worlds. At some point, I realize I have like 30, 40 years to fulfill this goal. It's like not a rush. But that, and to be able to maybe even qualify for international figures competition would be awesome.
Cool.
Just on my end.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. I would like to be able to go back and do this, but I don't know when I would really find time.
Right.
Because I really liked figures, but I wasn't good at them until about the last year when they got rid of them. Right in that last year, I had done well nationals and figures for the first time in my life, and I was like, oh my god, now we just got rid of them after all that time and attention.
Oh, that's so sad. Oh my
gosh.
Oh
my gosh.
Wow.
Oh. But at least you know that you could do them.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, well, and I mean, they were. I mean, I think for all of the pain in the butt, that sometimes they felt like they were, and all the time, when I think about all the cold mornings you spent in a rink, mind-numbingly going around the circle over and over and over again, they did teach you discipline, and they did teach you body alignment, and, understanding of turns and understanding of edges, because I swear to you, it's so hard these days, I think, to teach and move in the field when you start trying to teach complex turns. It's very hard, I think, now to get kids to understand, the difference of a rocker and a counter and things like that. It's just a lot harder to teach, and to teach them just the quality and kind of how the shoulders should be aligned on that. This is not a diagonal turn. It's just hard. And I think all those years of obviously doing figures, you understood what those turns were because you had actual figures that had to have that turn, and it had to be done clean.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
You'd have your bunny ears on top of the turn.
Oh, my gosh. The thing, okay, so feel free to shoot this down. This is kind of like a theory I have, and I understand that equipment was way different, and I know that jumps are a bit different, although I know that a lot of people experimented with jumps that we consider part of just the baseline of what we'd expect you to have in certain levels of competition. I feel like the figures taught such core, hip, and ankle control. I feel like there were less jumping-related injuries then than now. And I know there's a lot of variables.
I mean, I would say you're probably right because, and if you think about it, here's the key to skating. Time on the ice. And what did figures do for you? Oh my god, you had to spend twice as much time on the ice as you do now. And just, even though it was turns and, you weren't skating fast, you were certainly learning control and you were certainly learning coordination. And, I think this is lacking in a lot of skating for the time frame where these harder jumps and things get thrown at kids. By the time you were doing that when you skated and there were figures, you had spent 2 to 3 times more on the ice than the average kid does now.
Oh, yeah.
So just the time alone and the attention to those kinds of things, it obviously, I think, did probably make it safer for understanding and skill acquisition for these jumps.
Oh, my gosh. And we can edit this out if you like. But if we are able to stop by your rink, if we timed it in such a way, if there was time not taking away from anything that is already normally be going on, if there was enough time in the day or night or whenever, would Maria be able to have a skating lesson with you and I could have a figures lesson with you?
Oh,
Like,
sure.
We'll pay you for
sure.
like whatever. It's like
For sure.
we don't need special like podcast treatment or anything. But
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Anytime you guys are coming through, just let me know. Yeah,
Oh my
we
gosh.
work something out for sure.
that would
Awesome.
be so awesome.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What are like things on the horizon for you guys? Are you? I know you said you were wanting to compete. Like, do you have any kind of goals in that direction, like for a real, time frame?
Basically, as soon as my back can heal and stay relatively healed, I would love to get into the training. I don't know what I'd be able to monetarily put towards it, but I am also... Okay, so, a little side detail. I'm really big into tiny houses and things like that, and I want to create either one or something more or less like it, so I could literally just pick up and go to whatever training facility I wanted, have a place to live, not have to worry about rent or getting settled in a new area in a living situation context, and just be able to train. My only issue is that going back to jumping and not having good hip alignment, I had... one of the reasons I left skating, the primary reason, is because I had developed so many hairline fractures in both my hips because I had fractured my back, didn't realize it, and kept skating 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week.
Wow.
And now, in my lower back, I have one area that keeps on trying to refracture all the time, and it's going to do that until I like really restabilize some of those lower back and core muscles. And I've actually been trying to use figure alignment as a way to do that, and it's helped tremendously. I just need to get onto some kind of a good streak where I'm not having any back issues and I know that they're not going to come back for a while, and then I would love to jump right into all of it.
Right. Well, and yeah, for sure you want to make sure that you're healthy and can handle what you're doing. I think, have you been going to see lots of doctors or orthopedists or people?
Oh yeah, I had been in and out of physical therapy and doctor's appointments for years. Basically, I don't know if this is too much information or not, but what happened is, because I had kept skating, I ended up fracturing 3, questionably 4 vertebrae, and the bottom 3 healed together as like one bone. The little squishy disc in between some of my vertebrae is gone, and it's just like a fused line of bone.
Yeah.
So it's where the top of that fusion ends and where the next vertebrae is where if I'm not really on top of physical therapy and everything, it keeps getting like a slight hairline in it.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, well, and then that kind of thing, for sure, you just definitely have to, you always have to listen to your body, period. And sometimes as skaters, we do exactly what you did. We just kind of push through it. And, I've known lots of people who push through things. And Kyoko Ina, when she single skated, the year she won junior, like she was the champion for juniors at nationals, the year she did that, she had skated through an ankle hurting her the whole summer.
Oh.
And what had happened was she had a hairline fracture in her ankle, and she had just been competing and skating through it. Well, by the time they actually saw someone, the doctor was like, well, pretty much you're through it. It's pretty much re-healed, but you did have a pretty sizable hairline fracture.
Whoa.
And
Yeah.
this is what all your pain was. But the girl was still winning competitions and skating through the pain.
Oh my God.
So, I think as skaters, here again, not that skating through an injury is great,
Nope.
but, sometimes it does teach you, though, within reason. Of course, you always have those coaches that are like, suck it up and do your training,
Oh, yeah.
But you have to really listen to your body. But in some regard, I have, great respect for somebody who loves what they're doing so much. And I think as skaters, we did that. I know I did that too. There were times where I wouldn't tell people how bad I was hurting because I didn't want them to tell me I couldn't skate.
Right.
But I think you really have to be careful with that to a degree to really hit home to your students and skaters that you do need to speak up and say something. And saying something early is better than waiting a long time and then it turns into something much worse to deal with. Or,
just because like a kid is little. Injury. Yeah, you gotta take, if they say something hurts, you gotta take it like seriously. You can't just brush off, you're a little kid, you don't know real pain was the worst that could have happened to you out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a little girl who had to miss a lot of her summer skating this year because she had it was a weird hairline fracture, and it's interesting to me when kids get this and they're in the skating boot, because typically you'd think this is immobile enough that it wouldn't cause hairline fractures in, your ankle joint area. But she did have this little tiny hairline thing going on there, and was in a cast for a while, and then got the cast off, and then skated for another couple weeks, and was like still hurting, and they went back, and it was still there. So she had to be off another 6 weeks. So she hated that, though. I mean, she was in tears. She'd already been through this, having this cast on, and thought should have been healed already.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's so difficult.
But nonetheless, I mean, she's back skating now, but it set her back quite a bit, but you've got to take care of your body.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like I said, you're not always going to be a skater, and you need to be able to, hopefully get through life without a limp. Or without some major problems. I have things I know that hurt me still from injuries that I've had when I skated. But I guess I was lucky in a sense that I didn't have anything super major. Because as pair skaters, you tend to get a lot of back injuries or shoulder problems and issues. And
oh gosh, yeah.
I guess I was lucky in that regard that I didn't end up with any of that. The biggest problems I have are with skates and being in skates for so many hours teaching, and I had pretty decent looking feet before I started teaching, and then I didn't have bad ugly skater feet when I had finished competing, but then after teaching I've got some pretty gnarly bunions on my feet now, and they hurt me, I think, more now than I ever had anything when I skated. So those are kind of the pitfalls of teaching. I think it's more damaging to be standing around in skates as a coach sometimes than it is when you actually skated.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my gosh. Well, Maria can attest. The Adea skates keep your feet very warm no matter what you're doing on them. That's kind of like an inside thing that we tease each other on, because over the years, for some reason, I lost the ability to retain a lot of body heat. I'm trying to figure out why. But I have Rydell skates, and they're not like a coach series or anything. They're my competitive dance skates. And Maria has an Adea boot that she just got, and she's like, oh, it's so warm and insulating. I'm like,
my feet aren't numb from the cold.
Yeah, I have Adeas too. I like my Adeas okay, although, interestingly enough, I'm in an Adea. I liked my Adeas fine when I first got them, but the bunion on my right foot is so bad that even though they worked really hard to punch it out and make it right, but you know how Adeas are with the carbon fiber, and they're really pretty stiff. And it just kills me. Like, I'm actually in an old cling bile on one foot and my Adea on the left foot.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
Just because I can't tolerate it. I can't tolerate keeping the Adea on my right foot for more than, 5 minutes.
Oh, my gosh. Whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works, honestly.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and I mean, Sheila Thielen, I don't know if you know Sheila Thielen. She does a lot of stuff with Grassroots to Champions, and she's the inventor of Champion Cords and Champion Harness. She's a friend of mine, and she took pictures of my skates when she was here, because she has this whole Rolodex of skater boot photos that she posts on Facebook at the time. And my skates are so funny looking because I have a cling bile on the right and I have an Adea on the left, but my cling bile is an old leather boot, and I have an X cut out of it so that the bunion can kind of breathe. Because I I've had to cut through the leather in the neck so that it gives some pressure relief there.
Sacrifices we make.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Probably something I need to have surgery on. But honestly, another friend of mine had that surgery, and she was off almost for an entire year, and I can't really afford to do that.
Yeah.
I could make a dark joke about that, but I shouldn't.
she had that surgery, and her big toe bunion, they did it, and somebody that did it was not, I guess, very good, and they took the cast off or whatever after she had it in there, and when they took it off, her foot was sitting upright on the table, and her big toe just flopped over at a right angle to the left.
Oh
so
my gosh.
they had not attached the tendons properly to her big toe. So she had to go through the whole thing again. Her story freaked me out, and I'm like, okay, I don't want that. I can't afford it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
When I
you gotta make sure you get good surgeons whenever you have any kind of surgery.
Yeah,
oh my
get
God.
good doctors.
That's why I'm kind of afraid of back surgery. I don't know if I actually need it or not. I'm sure someone would recommend it. But when I was like 14, 15, I was recommended to have double hip replacements because I had so many fractures, and I ended up not doing it just because I was so afraid of the outcomes of minors having that kind of surgery and returning to their sport, plus having to replace it after X many years. But I'm not saying everyone should do this, but I think they healed relatively fine. Actually, kind of, I was super lucky. I was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis at the same time in my hips because I had worn down all the cartilage, and at that point it was just bone on bone. But actually, when I took that almost decade hiatus off of skating, most of that has grown back, and even though I had ruptured one of the, I'm going to mispronounce this, was it bursa sacs, or do you know that?
Yeah, bursa.
Thank you. Even though I had ruptured that, ironically, off ice on my right side, after that hiatus, it didn't seem to really cause any problem either coming back, but yeah. Listen to your body, people.
Yeah.
Especially children.
Yeah. Well, and that's not uncommon. I mean, if you look at Tara Lipinski and Michelle Kwan, Challen and I talked about this before on the phone. Mm-hmm. Before, they're in their early 30s, and both of them before that, just getting into their early 30s, both had total hip replacements because of the amount of abuse and the amount of wear and tear that had been, all those triple jumping and falling and all of that in their careers caused them to have that surgery so early. I mean, that's really early in life to be having total hip replacement.
Yeah, definitely.
No.
But that's the nature of the sport, though. I mean, I think it's scary because I know, we've all heard it. You hear it even on any of the, latest coverage. I think there was, a lot of things said about this at the national coverage that just happened.
Okay.
And even when they were talking on Europeans, some of the commentators talking about the wear and tear, the quads, and the expectation now of so many quads. And, of course, Nathan's doing,
I'm really
going to hopefully be the first person to do 5 quads at an Olympics.
Yeah.
And he's also had the hip surgery. So, I mean, it's so...
Oh my God. Do you know about the junior girls on the Grand Prix circuit?
Oh my gosh. They can...
I'm specifically thinking of the Russian-Japanese girls, but Russian specifically. There's a video. I think she was 15. And 15 was the oldest person that qualified for that. But,
You mean the most recent one?
Yeah, the most recent Grand Prix.
She was 13.
She was 13?
Yeah.
She did it was a quad, triple, quad combination. This was just in practice. It wasn't in the actual competition.
Oh, maybe
it was
she was
quad, triple, triple, or quad, triple, quad. It's I remember we put the rules about Olympic qualifying ages in there for a reason after Tara Lipinski. Ironically, to discourage this.
Yeah.
But, I'm so glad I'm not a freestyle skater anymore.
I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think this is the nature of the sport, that it is going to go up that way, and who can do the most quads in a program is probably what especially where the men are headed, looks like. But it does take away, I think, from some of the attention to the artistry for sure.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that a lot of the Russian girls that are coming up, you know, you'll see them for a hot minute and then they're gone. It's like, you know, they might be doing this, that, or the other, but like there's also so much wear and tear, but there's just like another one waiting in the wings, and it's kind of like, you know, the girl who was at the Olympics who was such the little hot you know, star, she's nowhere to be found anymore.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even find her on like the show circuits or anything.
I think I read that she had an injury.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, she had it.
But yeah, she like disappeared off the map.
Yeah, actually, it was.
And it's just weird to me. Like Medevita, like I don't know how you say her name. I always get it wrong.
So do we.
The one, the Russian who's, you know, the hot one on the scene, I guess. But although now she just got beat at Europeans. But she's the other one who's controversial because of the arm over the head thing. I mean, it kind of is annoying after a while, and I think there's some talk about them possibly putting some control on how many times you can do, you know, a limit on how many times you can do this arm over the head thing. Because some of it, well, from what I read too, in some of the communications, is that after a while, some of these people, they're just learning their triple jumps that way. So it's not that it's such a feature or that it's such a such a caveat of, you know, a difficult feature. It's just how they learn to do the jump. So is it really, you know, it's not difficult if that's just the way you've been taught to do the jump.
From what I've heard, it helps along.
Doing it 10 times in a program, you shouldn't really be able to get that extra bonus, I think, when it's just happening all the time. Like, I think there should be a limit.
Yeah, from what I was learning up on it, it was a jumping technique, not so much for artistry at this point anymore, but as a way to teach skaters to elongate their spine to stay more upright in the air, opposed to crossing your arms in front and possibly rounding your shoulders forward or back too. I don't know. That was the justification I heard.
Well, and you know this, but IJS calling this a feature, it's like there has to be, and you know, in spins there's a limit. You can't do this spin or that spin and repeat it multiple times. So to me, as far as jumping goes, there should be a limit and a cap on that. And plus, I've seen some girls, because there were some girls in the junior event at regionals where I had a skater, and they were the top two girls that you knew were going to be the top two, but they were doing these triple jumps with both arms over the head, and like triple up, triple toe with the arms over the head on both jumps. And while they were kind of neat looking sometimes when you saw them, both girls took such hard falls that it was like, oh my God. I was like, how is this girl going to get up? Because
it'd be a
one of them fell doing the triple ups with the arms, both arms over the head, and she was so tilted, she hit the ground and had no way to really protect anything because of doing this. So it was like, it was one of the worst falls I've ever seen, and I was like, oh my God, this is in the first, 40 seconds of your program. Now you've got to get up and try to do everything else.
Oh my gosh.
It's just, while it is an interesting feature to put your arms over your head, wow, if it goes wrong, it goes real wrong.
I remember trying it back when I was jumping, and I didn't like it because I felt like it was kind of like when you're spinning on the ice. If you get something just like a little bit out of where it's supposed to go, it'll just tear you away. And if you just slightly had your elbow turned the wrong way or a shoulder thing, I felt like it was harder to control the jump.
Well, and if the arm doesn't go up straight over your axis, and that means it should kind of disappear from your vision, it's going to cause a warble to your rotation.
You're screwed.
That's going to get out of control real quick.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I don't know. IJS in general is interesting. Like each year, it's always something new, and sometimes it feels like change just for change's sake. Hopefully these changes are supposed to be to advance our skating, but I'm not sure some of them always are.
Oh my gosh.
I think it would be nice to see. There's been talk of possibly down the line having events where it's strictly artistic at nationals, and I think that's an interesting.
It's
an interesting idea to have something that's artistically based but still a national event, and at our actual national figure skating championships, and not like theater on ice nationals or something.
Well, would we be taking like National Showcase and elevating it to mainstream status, or would this be like a revision of that, you think?
I think it would just be adding an event that would be specifically catering to that, the component and, artistic impression, which, who knows? Who knows if that can ever come about? I don't know. Or, but it really, I think it would be interesting, because I certainly would be interested in watching that, and I think the general public would too.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see skating if you look back, because I know we're talking about skaters and how skating has changed, and it was such pure skating, like in the time of Peggy Fleming or Dorothy Hamill or John Curry. And John Curry,
oh my gosh,
especially, if you go back and look at his skating, oh my God, I don't know that anybody has ever skated like that before or after him.
Oh my gosh, he's my favorite male skater, and okay, this is me getting a little testy, but to hear a few skaters be compared, not even compared, but commentators labeling some skaters as today the best skaters that ever were, I want to be like, do I need to show you some of these clips? Like, let's not.
Well, right, yeah. I think
compare like that.
How amazing he was. Like, if you go back and look at video of him, he was like almost otherworldly. I've never seen someone skate.
He was a professional ballet dancer as well as skater. Skating was his primary thing, but and let's not forget, skating was originally, as much as possible, the literal translation of ballet on ice. That's why when way back when, oh my gosh, this is going to be black and white films, if you could find any of these skating videos, that's why when you used to do multi-rotation jumps in the air, you crossed the foot that is usually the backspin foot in the air now for a right-handed skater. You used to cross that foot in front, and your left leg would be straight until like the last half to three-quarter rotation, and then you'd switch them for the landing. And that was taken right out of ballet. And there is a video, and oh my God, I can't remember who it was. I know that he... Damn it. Okay, I'm going to see if I can look this up real quick. He did a triple axel. This was in the 50s. Boots that we would consider way too soft today. I'm a kind of an advocate of softer boots, personally.
Well, Dick Button did, Hayes Allen Jenkins. Are you talking, how far back are you talking?
I'm trying to pull up the video to get a year on it, but it is an amazing video, and I'm actually going to send it to you as soon as I find it. So you can take a moment. And
there's one that I think I know, and I can't remember if it's David Jenkins or who it was, but it was like at Sun Valley on the outdoor rink. He does this.
Oh.
And it's crazy big and like not crossed.
Yeah,
and it's amazing that you get it around not crossing your leg.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah, it's David Jenkins, 1957. I'm gonna just send it to you now. This is probably the video that you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's so controlled.
It's like he's in a suit, and they skated in suits that had no give.
Say that again? I'm sorry?
They skated in suits that had no give, that were just like regular, like dinner jackets and things too, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Right? They weren't
that
exactly
could have been the most easy attire to skate in, even though that's what you did skate in back then.
And can I just say, okay, I didn't mean to cut you off if I did.
No.
I need to tone down the passion.
No.
Can I just say, the one thing my freestyle coaches used to love me for was artistry and the fact that I could blur spins. So many skaters back then, the default was you were expected to be able to blur at least your scratch spins.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, where has has that gone? I never actually went for to get it on record after listening to Rue, but I've been strongly encouraged to do that, and I really frickin' should have. But that used to just be like the base expectation.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, even doing that, like even a lot of higher level skaters that you'll see at Worlds or whatever don't do that, or I don't know if they can do that.
I don't think all of them can.
It's more about the weird feature position that you're supposed to hit, and some of those don't always spin that fast.
Yeah.
You know, I think that there's some guy spinners that you'll see at Worlds and you're like, oh my God, he's barely getting around on this position. And yes, you might have attained the feature, but there was no speed to the spin at all.
Yeah.
And then the changing of edges in the middle of the spin. I know Dick Button wasn't a fan when that became a thing, and I was never a fan of it, and I hated doing it. It's I just feel like
difficult.
It
is
difficult
for sure, but if you don't do it well, I mean, that's the other thing. You have to be able to be very delicate as far as the range of motion you're dealing with when you do that in order to keep the circles tight so that the spin doesn't look like it slows down a lot.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to teach, too. I mean, I understood it, I think, better because of the figure background.
I was going to say...
I could do, an outside edge change on my camel, and I understood it. But that's another thing in teaching these days that's hard to get kids to do and do well right away.
Yeah, I think figures are the base of actually becoming a good spinner. It's really the base of being a good jumper, because I think you'd agree. My experience has been that jumps are decided during the takeoff. Sometimes you can adjust it in the air, sometimes you can salvage a landing, but it's really decided before it even leaves the ice.
Oh, yeah.
And
whatever has gone wrong on your takeoff is like going to be magnified as that jump leaves the ice. So usually, mistakes are made on the entry for sure. And good skaters, sometimes you can really, finagle and move. You learn to like adjust if something has gone wrong.
I think that was really like Gracie Gold's best quality. When we talk about her being a great jumper, I think it's really the fact that she has such a fine awareness of where she was in the air, that she could take off kind of wonky, but she could correct it in the air more times than not and still be able to pull it off, almost like the takeoff didn't happen the way it did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and for sure, I mean, that's a great quality to have. Like, you have to be able to do that, if you're going to be a competitive skater, because there's going to be plenty of times where a jump doesn't feel like it went up right, but you got to do the best you can to like salvage it and get out on your feet.
Oh my God.
And hopefully have enough awareness to understand what to correct, in a split second.
Oh my God. That's how I knew I wasn't going to... Oh, sorry.
What?
I was going to say, that's how I knew I wasn't going to make it as a single skater, because I would just space out in the air. The worst thing you could possibly do. But, as you were.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you're definitely correct in the fact that, takeoff is really going to determine everything. If you've got a good foundation and you've got good body alignment on your takeoff, the jump is going to be fine. And, but and hopefully you have to, being aware of being level going into the air is super important. And I have to do lots of exercises and things with the kids so that they start to develop an awareness of how to leave the ice. Because, like, let's say you're doing a double loop and there is an outside edge takeoff. Well, you can't lean too far to, that side, and you can't push off the hip because you're going to go up into the air off axis. So, I mean, it's such a fine line of being able to understand how to leave the ice and still maintain level shoulders and feel like you can rotate.
Yeah.
Because people do. I mean, they tend to, what I call it is chicken wing. Like, people tend to drop, their right shoulder, but they chicken wing their left shoulder and they lean away from the direction they want to go into the air. And so I try to do a lot of rotational exercises on the ground, twizzling and in position and really understanding where your shoulders are. And I think that helps, to start to develop an awareness of how to be level on your takeoff going into the air on the jump.
I kind of want to add on to this, and I don't know if it's got to be more than just an equipment thing, but Well, when I was jumping, for my freestyle coach to be happy, if it was a single jump, you had to jump at least whatever your hip height was up in the air. And you had to jump, if it was a single, at least your full, if not almost 1.5 times your body length across the ice.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we used to have the coaches that I took from the skaters in the rink had competitions to see how far we could jump, how much height we could get, and then what kind of distance we could get. And I try to get the kids to do this now in my rink because I feel like a lot of people don't focus on that. But you've got to create hang time in the air, and you've got to understand what that is, and that, you know, you want to launch yourself in the air and have that time in order to get the rotation done. And it becomes really important when you try to teach a double axel to somebody, because you have to have 0.6 seconds in the air in order to get it clean. And if the kid doesn't have a very good understanding, or the skater doesn't have a very good understanding of launch and projection into the air, and you know, creating that kind of weightless moment, and they have like a super tight, let's say you're doing an axle and you're learning an axle, you have to teach them to get the rotation at first, and that's pretty tight. But then once they've mastered that, you have to start teaching them how to do almost a delayed axle or a big open axle.
Yes.
So they create space, so that if they want to learn a double axle, they're going to have that space to snap in on.
Do we really teach delay jumps anymore? I had to be able to delay all the single jumps and some of the double jumps. Do we do that now still?
Well, I teach kind of that idea in order to get the bigger, more explosive takeoffs, because you have to, most kids are, these days at least, what I see, are worried about rotation.
Yeah.
So they tend to pre-rotate everything. Like, they just want to spin.
Yeah.
And all jumping 101 is elevate, then rotate. You have to go up before you start to snap. And, you know, I will back it out and go to trying to do a more delayed single, and get them to understanding you can't do, because and kids, you know, that it cues in, it clicks in with them when you say, well, why are you doing a lower double than you do your single?
Yeah.
Because you're expecting yourself to get twice as much rotation out of a jump that is half as big. Like, that's just not possible. So we have to go back and do the single and try to pop it up into the air more and get comfortable with popping it up into the air and snapping. And that's scary, you know, sometimes to kids. You know, the trust level.
Oh, yeah.
With doing a bigger jump and still trying to snap it in for the double rotation. But hopefully you toggle back and forth, and you try to get them to rotate, but then you try to get them to get bigger. And it's also a timing thing. Like, it has a little more of a delayed feel when you do go up more on your takeoff.
Oh, yeah.
In order to do the jump properly. But, you know, that's just things I think that when you, as a coach, you have to toggle back and forth and realize when you're teaching, there's a place and a time for everything. I think sometimes you have to teach the very beginner skater a different way than you would teach them after they've mastered the jump. You still have, like, once they've gotten the jump, there's still work to do with making it bigger, making it, you know, better air position, more open air position.
Oh, yeah.
So you're constantly, you know, trying to develop them further. And sometimes I'll see coaches that don't do that, and then the kid never, you know, maybe they fizzle out because there's no hope for a double axel, or there's no hope for triples, because they've never learned how to do it any other way than just pulling in for everything they've got.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to, I think as coaches, you have to keep constantly developing and learning. And I'm always learning, too. I mean, I'm always learning from other coaches, and that's why it's great to go to seminars, or even things like iCoachSkating.com.
Okay.
If you go on there, there's plenty of information and sometimes new ways of approaching things, or exercises that, you know, either skaters or coaches could use. But you have to constantly, I think, be learning as a coach and realize you don't know everything. You know, there's always something new to learn, whether you be a coach or a skater.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. a lot of times, so a lot of my students are brand new adult skaters with no prior skating training. So a lot of times I find the lessons helpful, even for me, just going back and doing really fundamental things, because you can always improve on the fundamentals. And I remember training that there were so many skaters that hated going back. They'd be like, I know how to stroke already. I know how to do crossovers. I know how to stand on one foot. But it'd be like, well, how aligned are you? What ankle could you continue to do this thing at? What speed could you do it at? How can you manipulate yourself on this edge or on this flat?
Yeah, or how good are your knees and how good are your edges? Because a lot of times skating today loses that edge quality and the good bend of knees. Like, I'm constantly working on my kids trying to get that good deep knee bend. And we had a lot of attention, I feel like, that was directed towards that always with the coaches that I had. They always wanted you. Of course, when you pair skated or you dance, you have to get low in your knees.
Oh.
9 times out of 10, especially for the guy, because he's skating with a girl who's, maybe a foot shorter than he is. So you've got to be down in their framework. But also, it just creates such much more beautiful skating if skaters are edgy and curvy. That's really what it's about, is the curve, because straight skating is boring to watch. But I think back in the day, too, I think skating from yesteryear really did concentrate on curves and, nice body line and
absolutely.
And deep edge.
And I would go so far as to say that actually, this is my opinion, the precursor to really great knee bend is superior ankle bend, and you need great ankle strength to do that. And one of the reasons why I'm an advocate of softer boots is I feel like a lot of skaters never fully develop that really good ankle strength, and you can't really bend your knees without bending your ankle. I mean, you can, like, when you're sitting in a chair, but that doesn't allow you to get low on the ice. And I actually developed calf and Achilles issues because people would say bend your knees, and I took that super literal, and it didn't really occur to me to skate through the ankle. And then when I started, after I came back on the ice, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to deconstruct everything I've known and just see what I can piece back together, I found that it's ankle bend that I think a lot of coaches are thinking about when they talk about knee bend.
Well, yeah, I mean, I concentrate on both. I mean, I'm always telling them that ankle and knees, these are the things you need to be bending. And usually I'm talking with them about this because skaters bend over a lot, like trying to teach proper posture and good upper body carriage over your, bent knees. I mean, this is the thing. A lot of them will bend their knees and ankles and lean forward. Yeah. And it's really hard to get. It takes work, and it takes really thinking about skating in really beautiful positions on the ice. Does not feel natural.
No.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I used to have coaches that would say, if it doesn't feel good, it probably looks good.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was the beginning of my back downfall. I had a super overextended landing position. Plus, I would land slightly off my hip instead of right over it, and that basically is what caused the back and the eventual hip problems I had. And sometimes I wonder, like, we see different styles. Like, there's a very clear, like, North American style of skating that's very different from a Russian style of skating that's still quite distinctive from other European styles. And then there's really soft, I'm finding it hard to articulate it, but the Japanese and slightly variant, even Chinese style of skating. Something I constantly ask myself is, when is a style aesthetically pleasing but anatomically not great?
Yeah. You mean as far as injury or as far as things like that go?
Yeah, because one of the things I never really took dance when I skated, but I started working with a Garth Fagan dancer privately. And I realized to get a lot of the dance positions they were going for, which look superhuman and are incredible, it required a totally different alignment than when we went to the rink and tried to copy some of those positions on the ice. And on the dance floor, some of the ice positions to get these looks would have been considered dangerous or just not long-term healthy. And sometimes I wonder when we see different aesthetic styles of skating, when is it pretty and okay versus when is it pretty but actually not good for you?
Well, right, and I think you can see that a lot sometimes with Russian girls, and like some of them, excuse me, some of them train almost like rhythmic gymnastics.
Yes.
And the ultra flexible, but wear and tear on the back is
it's tremendous. Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Wear and tear on the back, I think, is where a lot of girls develop problems.
If you need water,
sorry, I got
by all
down my
means.
throat.
Yeah, we can take a breather for a second.
Okay. I'm okay now.
Okay. We're just sitting there holding our breath, looking at each other. Yeah. Actually, I'll ramble on and give you an additional minute or two to just get all situated. Something I found was really hard. So, when I left freestyle, I ran to a Russian coach, who was a really prominent Russian ice dancer back in the day, and the goal was that we were going to, if I had kept training at a certain pace and things kept progressing, we were going to possibly go back to Russia to look for a partner, figure things out, try to bring that partner over here, and then just debut senior. And my freestyle injuries got in the way from that happening, so it didn't. And when I came back to the ice after my long hiatus, I found an American skater that we were kind of just practicing around with and just kind of like trying to remember how to do the different higher compulsory dances. And they were trying to relive some of their old national glory days with their former partner with me, and I just kind of wanted the experience of actually getting to finally skate with a partner. And there was such a huge difference, and there still is, between my classical Russian style of ice dance versus his more North American style of skating. And we clashed so much in the beginning. It took like a year to begin to really start sorting things out.
Yeah. Well, and
Such a knowing laugh.
do what?
That's like such a knowing laugh.
Well, and I mean, what did you find the difference was? Was it more of extension and edge kind of curvature, or what was really the...
It was stuff like that. It was, oh my god. We used to, oh my gosh. I'm not going to like badmouth him, I promise. I love him. But we'd run into a lot of issues with, extension, pace, how we would move from one position to another. Even when we were just skating side by side, it would be different. I had a totally different way of leaning and finding balance and lowering my center of gravity than he automatically defaulted to. Also, the work ethic was super different. So I came from a thing where when I first went to my Russian coach, for one whole summer, 5 hours a day with only one 15-minute break, I had to just stroke about 10 feet away from the boards to the boards, push back to where I started from, and then switch feet. And that was all I was allowed to do to get a really strong stroking base, because I had lateral pelvic tilt in my hips, and I still do to a lesser degree. And my coach didn't understand that's what the problem was, but he was like, your hips are uneven. One is sticking out more. One is good. Get them even before we do anything else. So I was used to things like that. And when I would want to like practice something, I would super like micro break it down. I wouldn't move on until the alignment with the previous thing was just right. And my other partner was like, we can probably just barrel through it. Or, it's not working. I don't know why. I'm frustrated. And I'm like, this is when we take it under the microscope now and we drill it for hours on end if we need. And I was like, I understand some of this is like a personality thing because we also have very different personalities, but it was such a clash. And the whole time I'm like, my Russian coach would have killed you.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is a little bit of the mindset that I think is just kind of prevalent in general with today's skating in the U.S. Is like,
really?
people want to kind of plow through things and not spend as much time on the development of fundamentals, and then the overall skating. You can tell when a skater is not really aware of maybe the importance of their edges or the importance of transitions and the artistic end of that, of their skating, and there's a lot of that now. And I think primarily it's because, A, people are not skating as much as they used to when I skated. B, you're so geared to learn the new move, learn the new feature, am I doing this jump? And really, it takes, I think, even beyond what moves in the field can do for skating.
Oh, yeah. Way
it takes
beyond.
much more attention to teaching patterns that are different. Like, I teach a lot of different stroking patterns in addition to whatever skaters are doing with moves in the field. That's because awesome. You have to. It's like supplemental. What we always did this. Like, and you have to. It's hard because you sometimes don't get maybe as much time with skaters, so you feel like you don't get to spend as much time on the artistic end of edgy skating and really developing curves and developing your sense of body carriage and being expressive in your in-between skating. Like, it's just hard. I think you try to do, I try to hit those kind of things at different points of the season. I think as coaches, you have to kind of figure out, like, in the downtime now, that's when I usually start making my kids do a whole lot more edgy stroking exercises.
Yeah.
We do concentrate on skill acquisition as far as jumps go, but I try to spend more of the time right now on them working on what do I look like as a skater, how edgy and curvy is my skating, and doing different exercises and then videoing it and then having them go look at it and having them analyze to me what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important. I think you need to have I know whenever I looked at myself skating, I was hypercritical. And to me, there was no better teacher. I could hear and know what my coaches were saying, but when I saw it, it kind of really clicked in and I was like, wow, I need to stroke better than that. I need to bend my knees more. He was right. My posture is bad here. I think you have to analyze your skating, and you have to teach kids to start to analyze their skating. And with all the iPhones and everything else that all the kids have, I have a lot of my kids do this. They'll set up their iPhone, on the side of the rink, mm-hmm. and do different things in front of it, and then go back and look at their skating.
Yeah.
And but just being aware, I think, of your fundamentals of skating and how you move across the ice. Because if you go to any, I don't know, I went to components camp. I've gone a couple of times with skaters, and that's where everything is really geared towards the artistic end of your skating and what those points mean, like how you can really up your game as far as your artistic end goes. The judges will sit and tell you, they really want to see skaters with soft ankles and knees. They want to see skaters that put them at ease with their skating across the ice. How balanced are they when they move across the ice? And some skaters, even on high level, and they'll show videos of this, which is great when you're there for the clinics that they do at components camp, they'll show videos of even real high-level skaters that you can watch the program and they do not give you an easy feeling, even though they're doing all these triple jumps. Their in-between skating isn't as pleasing.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what you got to work, because then you'll see the component mark suffer. They might have all the jumps, and they might have a huge technical mark, but they're going to have a big disparity, and you're trying to work towards programs that don't have very large disparity between the component mark and the technical mark. And but I think it's important to get kids involved in their own skating, kind of even at early ages, because you don't always see them. You're seeing them 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, whatever. And when they work on their own, they have to be able to self-correct and, manage their time, but also how do I do that? How do I work on my own? Because there are a lot of kids within our rink that don't know how to do that. Like, they are just a mess if they're not in a lesson with a coach. They're, off in La La Land and don't really know what they're doing. But I think, hopefully if you have a coach that helps with that, that's your job. Because, I think of coaching, we do about 35% of the job. The rest is up to the skater and their training. And you have to teach skaters early on how to manage their time and how to work well and how to, cycle through things that they need to be working on when they're on their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Something I say a lot is I'm a coach, but I'm not your drill sergeant. I'm not like your boss. You're hiring me. But what I am is hopefully a good facilitator for you having the kind of skating experience and career that you want.
Right. And, it just helps early on. And this is going back to even my book. It's like teaching the responsibility. You've got to teach kids to be responsible for their skating early on in life, so that they develop quicker. And, everybody, we have a shelf life. And, for kids, that shelf life is, shorter and shorter now these days. And I know with juvenile being knocked back down again to 12 years old, that's also created some, shock, because now all of a sudden some kids who were thinking they could be 14 and be a juvenile, that ship has sailed. And they've dropped the age back down, because the thought process was you had a lot of people staying back in juvenile for too long, and a lot of skaters not making it all the way to like senior, because they're holding back so long trying to be, the juvenile champion of the universe. And
do not miss that
some
level.
coaches that would just hold kids back. And I think U.S. figure skating really needs to do a lot of work trying to make sure we retain skaters and that we keep the interest and that we keep people testing and moving along and moving through all the levels, because it's a lot. It's getting to be where it's rarer to see someone get through all of their tests, even because people get frustrated or they lose interest. And I think with nationals happening, and I know because you probably saw this on my page, the controversy of the senior men's event.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
With Ross Minor. Things like this, and my whole point to that thing that kind of went on and on and on with so many people like chiming in on what they thought, but my whole point of that is U.S. figure skating has got to start to learn that you have an obligation to the skaters, their coaches, the parents, but also the general public as to what our sport is being and how it's being perceived. Because you don't want people to be so frustrated or so outraged or disgusted with maybe what they see as fair that they just don't venture into our sport.
Yeah.
They go to soccer, they go to volleyball, they go somewhere else on a team sport, and maybe decide from seeing things like that skating isn't something they want their kid to be involved in.
Oh, we agree, or at least I agree. I'm not going to speak for Maria.
No, I agree.
Okay, yeah, we agree.
And I understand the validity of why things went down the way they did. I just know to the general public it looks bad.
Yeah.
And to Ross Minor, I'm sure it feels bad because there's got to be some level of respect given to someone who knows it's Olympic year, still keeps their act together, and still gives the performance that he gave, because he's just like anybody else. He had just, it's like the pressure's on. I mean, and I don't care. I'm sure he didn't know going into that, or probably didn't think going into that, I have no chance to go to the Olympics.
Right.
I don't think that was his thinking. And in fact, I know it wasn't, because I know it wasn't Mark Mitchell, his coach's thinking either. And unfortunately, Mark had that same thing happen to him in his own skating career. So it's just kind of unfortunate that his own student was kind of put in exactly the same circumstance.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, I mean, you can't take that away from Ross Minor. That was like a performance of a lifetime, and he really did it at a time where it was crucial, even though it didn't end up working out in his favor.
Oh my gosh.
At least no one can take away. He was second in the senior championship men's event going into an Olympic year.
Yeah.
I just have also some. I like Jason Brown, but I have some issue with them putting him as first alternate to the Olympics as well. Because I know he has a track record where he's done well in the past, but honestly, in the past couple of years, there hasn't been a whole lot of improvement in his technical skating. In fact, it looks like it's kind of gone the other way, and I don't know how much. It's a fine line to say, oh, based on past record, we're going to do this for this person. Well, what are they doing right now? And is that going to be the smartest scenario for you to send someone who, they have a track record, but they're not really having great skating, right now, and what they're putting out in front of you wasn't so great.
Yeah.
So,
it's
you have to wonder. It's just hard. I mean, that's the gray area of our sport, I think, is you're never going to get rid of the subjectivity.
Yeah.
And but it would be nice if there were rules in place to make it feel as though it wasn't, so, well, we like this skater and we don't believe in this skater.
Right.
It's like, let's base it on what they're doing, not who they were.
That's something I like about the more fringe or less mainstream competitions, is it seems to be more like that. I could be wrong. I did not personally participate in those competitions, but that is the vibe that I get. Yeah,
well, I mean, there again, it's just like, I hope, if nothing else, I think U.S. figure skating has gone back to the drawing board a little bit now, and they're having to look at things a little bit more, given this instance with Ross Minor, because it needs to be fair, and people need to feel like they have an opportunity, whoever they are.
Oh, yeah.
If they're second, if Nationals is not qualifying for these other things, then what are we doing at that level?
Is it a qualifying competition or not?
What's the competition
Make
for?
up your mind.
Yeah.
No, it was a historic performance, and I kind of feel like in a way it's like, I don't want to say a smaller version, but it's very similar to what the 2002 Salt Lake Games kind of opened up. What are we doing, and what are we doing it for?
Right. Well, yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think anything is ever going to be fair, totally, as long as humans are involved. Because the subjectivity is always going to be there. I like this skater, I didn't like that skater. But, this is what IJS was to hopefully make it more fair. But, there again, too, there's always the component mark, which they could all decide, we're going to really up this component mark to put so-and-so where we want them.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I think they just have to be more careful. Like, the other thing that I think was touched on, because Tara Lipinski talked about it, was the fact that Jason Brown was not called on that triple axel that he did that was so clearly under rotated. I mean, it was like it was the half, like it was a half turn under rotated, and he didn't get called for that.
Yeah,
and I mean, you could see it on the video.
Yeah,
like they kept showing it over and over. It was like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, if you have this very complicated scoring system and you have these grade of execution points, you don't get to decide when and if you use them.
Yeah.
If you made the book this complicated, follow the book you made. No exceptions.
Right. And if you're going to scrutinize, because they have to go back and do the video review for all of these things, and that's why you see the yellow boxes up there, because they're reviewing. Yeah. But if you go back and look at the video and you couldn't see that, like, maybe their camera angle was different than the one that, you know, NBC had, but it was clearly under-rotated, and they called some things that were closer to being clean under-rotated. And so I think Johnny Weir even said, you just get the feeling that it's like because somebody is somebody, this call wasn't made.
Right.
Because that would have put him, you know, behind Grant Hochstein. And because Grant skated a pretty flawless short program. And probably the short program of his life, because he did a quad sal, I believe, in that short program.
Awesome.
And skated clean with a triple axel. So, I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know that Jason Brown's artistic, while it is great, and I like Jason Brown as a skater, I don't know there that his artistic was so much better than Grant Hochstein that he should have been beating him when Grant skated a flawless program in probably like the program of his life in the short program. You know, you've got to wonder. It's just like the Russian girl getting ahead of, what's her name? At Europeans.
Oh, yep.
The third place.
Are you talking about Carolina Costner?
Yeah, Carolina Costner. Carolina Costner came out under Medvedev, like, in the short program, and she had fallen out of a double axel and I think messed up a spin. And somehow still came over Carolina Costner, who skated like a flawless short program.
Yeah.
I heard her program was great.
I just don't. That kind of, to me, just says, we're going to put this person wherever we want them.
Yeah. Carolina Costner's short program was really good. I really liked it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think she should have at least been second. Mm-hmm. And there again, you just get the feeling that, you know, of course, there again, we're in Russia. We're having Europeans in Russia. There were quite a few Russians in the top while you're having Europeans in Russia. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Take that for what it's worth. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know that the adoption of IJS has really made it any more fair than it was in 6.0.
So. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I know it's there for a reason, and I know what, you know, the reasoning is, but there's always, like I said, going to be a way for, you know, the human aspect of it to seem unfair at times.
Right.
No, it's difficult. It's an entirely different context. It's difficult when it's your career in that context.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. Those kind of situations, too, make you wonder, is it still like, you know, there's these under-the-table, you know, judging situations or scenarios going on still? I mean, when you have something that looks clearly like it should have been or gone the other way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Europeans in that short program was a good example of what's going on.
Right, yeah.
But, I don't know. Olympics should be very interesting.
Oh, gosh.
I agree.
We're going to have a party and just watch it.
Like Russia having to compete under the Olympic flag and not their own flag.
Yeah.
That's going to be, you know, monumental in itself, I guess. But then you've got also the fact that, you know, we're in South Korea.
Yeah.
With North Korea all of a sudden having a huge interest in sending athletes to the Olympics, whereas they initially were not. That seems
a little
scary to me.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be highly watched, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
More so than other years, I'm sure.
Oh gosh. It's gonna be hard to top one way or another. Oh my gosh.
Well, guys, I know I've had a great time. I'm gonna have to be running here in a little bit.
Oh, likewise.
I don't know if you've got enough.
We got a skating session coming up, so this is perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Oh my gosh, we do have, or we will order you your very own Flutzin Around podcast T-shirt or tank top or hoodie, whatever you want.
Yeah, I would love a T-shirt. I would definitely support that.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I will message you to get a brand and size, and we'll slap something on it and ship it out to you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'll try to get probably this week the books sent out to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Like I said, I'll try to go in and get the Star to sign some for you as well, and this week, and then we can maybe get those off.
Yes, and please spread this podcast around to people so we can have a bigger pile of potential winners to choose from.
Yeah. No, and I think this is great. I mean, I like the idea of the show, and I hope that it keeps taking off and getting bigger and bigger.
Thank you.
I think the other thing that we talked about earlier, going to adult competitions. I think you guys should start looking into doing that, and then doing podcasts from there, because I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be fabulous.
Yeah.
First today, tomorrow, the world.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, I've had a really great time. I wish you guys all the luck in the world, and
likewise.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh yeah, and please come and visit. We'd love to have you come visit.
Yay.
Just let me know anytime you're interested and in the area.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We hope everyone enjoyed listening to this podcast. Check out Lance Travis on Facebook. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you send him a message. And please go buy his book. It's awesome.
Yes, please do. It's so adorable. I loved it.
Audrey's awesome.
Yes, please do. No, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the support, but most of all, I mean, I just want to get the book out there. So I feel like it does serve a purpose, and I think that it has some value for young and up-and-coming skaters and readers, and hopefully it spawns and incites people to take up ice skating and competitive ice skating. And we need more young, up-and-coming skaters that are good sportsmen and good people.
Yeah.
We'll share skating's inner and outer beauty with the world.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Yes.
We wish you a good rest of your day.
Yes, have a lovely day.
All right, well, you guys too, and just give me a call sometime, or I'm sure we'll keep talking back and forth or whatever, and I'll let you know when I send the books out.
Sounds good.
Oh my gosh.
And we'll keep you updated on everything too.
So excited.
Yes.
All right.
All right, everybody.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. That was our first celebrity guest episode of Flutzin Around.
Yay!
Oh my gosh.
I hope it recorded everything okay.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Oh my gosh. For the contest.
Yes.
5. I don't know why I said 10 fingers. 5.
They don't know that.
Lucky listeners on the new now will have a chance to win official autographed copies of Audrey's Awesomesauce first competition, signed by author and illustrator, champion skater Lance Travis, and the real life Audrey.
Yay!
And friends. So details will be coming up in the next podcast. We'll get everything all arranged and set up for you. Please listen in. We are going to try to make this a weekly, but it will definitely be at least a bi-weekly podcast. Tell all your friends. We hope to have official merchandise like what we offered to Lance for all of you in the coming weeks, maybe a couple of months or so.
Hopefully,
Get all the little details figured out.
Yeah.
But yes, listen, share.
Yes, and we'll put all of Lance's information in the description as well, so then you'll be able to see it, and you'll be able to buy the book. We'll put some links in there as well. So yeah, definitely check his stuff out. He's awesome.
Check out the Greensboro Ice House where he trains and coaches out of. And we will catch you next time.
Yes, thank you so much again for listening.
Bye.